The starship Radiance glided silently through the dark expanse of Sector 7K, its matte black hull absorbing the faint starlight. Captain Elira Vane sat in her command chair, her piercing green eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The sector was barren, an unremarkable stretch of space dotted with ancient debris and faint energy signatures that could barely register on the ship's scanners. Yet something had drawn her here. "Anything yet, Levos?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying an edge of anticipation. Levos, the ship's AI, responded with its usual precise tone. "No anomalies detected within the range of standard sensors. However, the energy signatures from Grid Theta are inconsistent with known phenomena, suggest increasing scan radius." Elira frowned, drumming her fingers against the armrest. Grid Theta had been flagged in an intercepted signal, a garbled transmission from Uryx Station, an outpost that had vanished 2 decades ago. The message contained only 2 words: "Help us. Bring up the scan. I want every inch of this sector mapped." The bridge crew moved quickly, adjusting their instruments. To her right, Lieutenant Kellen, her tactical officer, leaned closer to his console. "Captain," he said, his voice tense, "if this is a trap, we're walking right into it. Uryx Station didn't just disappear, it was declared lost after an incident classified as top level." "And yet," Elira replied, her gaze never leaving the hologram, "someone out there is asking for help. We're not leaving until we find out who or what is behind it." The ship's deep scan hummed to life, the vibrations faintly resonating through the deck. The crew waited in tense silence as the hologram filled with data. At first, nothing. But then, the outline of a massive structure began to emerge, shrouded in energy distortions and debris. "There," Elira pointed. "What is that?" Levos zoomed in on the image, enhancing its resolution. The structure was vast and jagged, a broken ring suspended in space. Pulses of faint green light flickered along its edges, creating an eerie rhythm. "It matches no known design," Levos reported, "but the energy readings suggest a combination of quantum entanglement and gravitational manipulation." "A piece of Uryx Station?" Kellen asked. "Unlikely," Levos replied. "This structure predates human presence in this sector by at least 12,000 years." Elira's stomach turned. Ancient structures often came with ancient dangers. "Bring us closer," she ordered. "And prep a boarding team, I want answers." As the Radiance approached the derelict ring, the crew worked to secure their equipment. Elira joined the boarding team in the ship's staging bay, donning her sleek EVA suit. Kellen stood beside her, checking his weapon. "Tell me again why this is a good idea," he muttered. "Because curiosity is what keeps us alive, Kellen," she said with a smirk, strapping her plasma rifle to her back. The docking maneuver was tense but smooth. The boarding tube extended and latched onto a jagged section of the ring. The airlock hissed open, revealing a dim corridor lined with strange metallic etchings. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, as if the structure itself was alive. "Elira," Kellen said, his voice low. "Are you seeing this?" "Yeah," she replied, running her gloved fingers over the markings. They glowed faintly at her touch, reacting to her presence. Levos's voice crackled in their comms. "Captain, the structure is emitting a low-frequency resonance. It's attempting to interface with your suits." "What does it want?" Elira asked. "Unknown. Proceed with caution." They moved deeper into the corridor, the faint green glow growing brighter with each step. The air inside the structure felt heavy, oppressive, even though their suits provided breathable oxygen. Elira's heart pounded, but she forced herself to focus. They reached a central chamber, its walls spiraling upward into infinity. In the middle stood a pedestal, and atop it floated a crystalline sphere, pulsing with light. "Is that the source of the signal?" Kellen asked. "Looks like it," Elira said, approaching cautiously. Her suit's sensors were blaring warnings about gravitational anomalies and energy surges. "Levos, what are we dealing with?" "The sphere appears to contain a memory archive," the AI replied. "But its power source is unstable. I recommend extreme caution." Elira reached out, her glove hovering just above the sphere. The light within it intensified, and her mind was flooded with images. A great city, bathed in golden light, a race of beings with translucent skin and glowing eyes. And then, the darkness. A consuming void that ripped the city apart, leaving only the broken ring. "Elira!" Kellen's voice snapped her back to reality. The sphere was glowing brighter, vibrating violently. "We need to go, now!" Kellen shouted, grabbing her arm. But it was too late. The sphere exploded in a wave of light and everything went black. Elira awoke on the floor of the chamber. The light from the sphere was gone, replaced by an eerie stillness. Kellen was beside her, groaning as he pushed himself up. "What happened?" she asked, her voice shaky. Before he could answer, a deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. "You have seen the past," it said. "Now you will face the consequence." The walls began to ripple, the metallic etchings unraveling into dark tendrils. Elira scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. "Levos!" she shouted into her comms. "Get us out of here!" But there was no response, only the sound of the tendrils closing in. The tendrils slithered toward Elira and Kellen, their dark surfaces reflecting faint, pulsating light. They moved with purpose, like living shadows converging on prey. Elira instinctively raised her plasma rifle, but her fingers hesitated on the trigger. Would firing only make things worse? "Kellen, move!" she yelled, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the corridor they had entered. Kellen stumbled, still dazed from the explosion of light, but his training kicked in. He raised his own weapon and fired, bolts of searing plasma striking the advancing tendrils. The energy blasts hit their marks, causing the tendrils to shudder and recoil, but they quickly reformed, pressing forward with renewed vigor. "This isn't working!" Kellen shouted as they retreated down the corridor. "What the hell did we wake up?" "Something old," Elira muttered, scanning the walls for any signs of an exit. The once ancient etchings now pulsed erratically, their patterns shifting like a language she couldn't read but somehow understood. They reached the airlock, but the docking tube had detached. Through the small viewport, Elira could see the Radiance, its exterior lights flashing in distress. "Levos!" she barked into her comms. "We need an extraction, now!" The AI's voice crackled to life, distorted and strained. "Captain, the structure, emitting interference." The tendrils closed the distance. They weren't mindless. Each movement was calculated, forcing Elira and Kellen into a corner. Elira's mind raced, desperation clawing at her focus. Then, a memory from the vision flashed in her mind. The beings with glowing eyes standing in front of a similar tendril. They had raised their hands and the tendrils had recoiled. To be continued.